Time is just gone. The time is just gone 18 minutes past 9 a.m. And we look at the second half of this morning show on the edition of News and Views, looking at the Rohingya camp. Now, we have learned that a huge fire had broken out in the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh yesterday, where more than 10,000 homes have been destroyed. 80,000 people are displaced. We've heard about thousands of children and elderly who are missing. And we joined this morning on the line by Restless Beings, Mabrur Ahmed. Mabrur, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Jazakallah to you as always for joining us this morning on Salam Media. Now, let's just talk about this fire. Now, we've learned about this fire. We've heard about huge devastation that has been caused by this fire. Do we know, firstly, what caused this fire?
Look, I think first, before we even discuss what caused the fire, refugees camps shouldn't exist. They are essentially one hell from another hell. They're like a waiting room for people who are in distress and who are in need, waiting for whether or not the international community cares enough to help them. There's many reasons why this fire could have taken place specifically. But we don't have the exact details. What we do know is that there were two small fires. And of course, you and your listeners would know that the Rohingya camps are made of small huts made out of bamboo and plastic sheets. So once a fire starts, it's very easy to spread rapidly. These two fires joined together and a huge area was engulfed. We're estimating in the region of about 10 to 15,000 homes were destroyed, leaving around about 80,000 people displaced within a displacement.
Well, exactly. And I think the key issue here is, when we're talking about 80,000 people, this is no small number. Now, that obviously tells us the nature of the problem and how serious the problem is at this point in time, because I'm sure this is a very small place. It's a very confined space as well for 80,000 people to be all, huddled together. But the key issue here at the end of the day is this has happened. And at this point in time, there is an extremely urgent need for help, for support.
Yeah, I think, look, sometimes when we hear about these types of disasters, we see the big things, right? We see the pictures of the fire, we see the number 80,000 that are displaced. But what that sometimes does is it takes us away from real people and real lives, right? So we have to remember there was a fence, a wire fence around the outside perimeter of this camp. People were trying to escape from the fire, unable to escape from the fire. Mothers and children, fathers, sisters, brothers were separated. They've still been separated. We got distressing images yesterday of women and children going back to their site of their original home, going through the rubble of the ashes and picking up even things like potatoes that managed to not get burnt in the fire and using them because they've got literally nothing to eat. There's literally nowhere for them to stay now. So they were already at the mercy of donations. But right now they have nowhere to sleep, nowhere to eat. They have nothing to lie down on. They have nothing to eat. And that's already from the despair and the trauma of 3 years ago. They're reliving that now. And it's totally, totally avoidable, at least now. Previously, they were escaping a genocide where their children were being burnt alive on purpose by the military. On this particular occasion, yes, again, unfortunately, we have seen children and elderly burned alive. But that's not because of a violence, it was because of an accident. But yet again, they are in a state of displacement. Yet again, they're in a state of absolute dire need. And I think, sometimes we forget what it might feel like, and we can never even imagine what it may feel like to know that you have 2 or 3 children or brothers and sisters, but you don't know where to go to look for them. You don't know which point to go and stand at or wait at. You don't know how to access just to cover your head from the searing heat. You don't know where to get that sheet from. There's literally nothing to eat. You are begging people for food. The amount of dignity and self-respect that a person has is completely shattered. And so when I say there's an urgent, I'm talking about one person, and we can maybe empathize how we individually as an individual might feel about that. When you have 80,000 people feeling like that, the majority of whom are children, it's it's a difficult thought to try and go to sleep at night with and to wake up in the morning with. And I think that's the state that the Ummah should be in until and unless we have taken some care and provision for these people. We cannot rest.
Exactly. And Mabrur, I'm actually quite glad that you mentioned the climatic conditions, because at this point in time, we know that part of the world, right in the middle of their summer, and you're talking about extreme heat. We're talking about extreme temperatures at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the unfortunate things about that part of the world is that there are extreme seasons. So only 2 or 3 months ago, it was very cold in the camps. Right now, the rains are due to come in April, May. When the rains come, it's very hot but very wet. But just before the rain comes, which is around this time, around March time, it's just very, very hot, very, very hot. And that's actually been suggested as one of the reasons why the fires might have started, just simply from the heat itself. But yes, I mean, they have nothing to protect them from the intense heat at the moment of the night and in the day, and in the night they have nothing to protect them from the mosquitoes and the rats and the mice, right, that they are literally exposed to. And at the same time, they're not eating anything, so they are almost starving or picking up food wherever they can. What we've seen, and this is remarkable, displaced communities, the Rohingya people who themselves have nothing to eat, are giving shelter and food to some more of the Rohingya who have been displaced by this fire. And that goes to show the nature, the character, and actually, I believe, not just of the Rohingya, but what we as the Ummah should be, completely. That these are things that are coming from straight from the textbook of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Keep a little for yourself and give everything away. And yesterday, I actually came across a family who literally only had one tomato and one onion to eat amongst their entire family, because the rest of the food that they had, they gave to the displaced Rohingya people. I mean, subhanAllah, I can't even imagine how that might feel to do, but these people are doing it. And so we are really in urgent need. I'm only relaying this information because I'm trying to express how urgent the need is and how dire the situation is. And unfortunately, again, and this is probably a state of the world that we're in, some of us are heightened with this information right now, but in 2 or 3 days' time, something else will come along, it will take our attention away. But these people will still be under the heat. They'll still be under the stars with no protection. And so that's the reason why I said we must fulfill, before we move on, we must fulfill our amana to our brothers and sisters in the Rohingya.
Well, it certainly is an amana. And also, Mabrur, we're 2.5 weeks away from the month of Ramadan. And I actually shudder to think what Ramadan these people will be having. And we know at this point in time, there's huge preparations going on in our homes for the month of Ramadan. Our freezers are going to be stocked to the brim. It's going to be full. And we are preparing just so much for the month of Ramadan. And here we're talking about a family living on one tomato at this point in time, even before the month of Ramadan.
I mean, exactly. I mean, I don't want to make a prejudgment on people, because the risk that Allah has given, of course we should enjoy it as well. It's not to make people feel guilty. It's to say that charity does not decrease your wealth, right? Just in the same way that waking up for the night prayer will not make you more unrested. These things, Allah takes care of these things in another way. But even regardless, even of those people who have no faith of these types of things, regardless of that, we should always have, especially when we're talking about developed countries such as South Africa, the UK and other parts of the world as well. We all definitely have the ability to donate something. It doesn't have to be a lot. Right now, I mean, one thing that we've been using on our campaign materials, and something that I firmly believe in, is that money is not going to rebuild these people's lives. It simply won't rebuild the lives. You can't throw money at everything, right? But a donation right now will literally save someone's life. It's not going to rebuild their life, of course not. You can't give someone, £100 or, whatever, 5,000 rand and say to someone, okay, look here, rebuild your entire life. Someone can't rebuild their life like that. It's just been destroyed by fire. But what that money will do is it will buy them immediate food. It will buy them immediately a pair of sandals that they can put on their feet so they're not burning their feet as they're walking around. It will buy them, a change of clothes, because they've been burnt in this and they've been escaping it. It will buy things like a soap so they can wash themselves, food, rice, lentils, potatoes, onions, oil, these types of things. It will give them the shelter above their head, the bamboo to erect another somehow temporary home again. That's not going to rebuild their life. It will save their life.
Exactly. And this is the reason why there is this urgent need and this urgent call for support to provide these very, very basic items that will provide them some relief in some way whatsoever.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like I said, we're looking to raise as much money as possible. It doesn't matter if someone can't afford, a lot. Whatever they give right now will be put to immediate use. We're distributing all the time. There's another distribution coming up. I'm just looking at our time. I think in the next 2 hours we're starting our next distribution. For around about 600 Rohingya people will be getting, their homes and their food and their additional packs, their hygiene packs, their dignity packs. Another thing, for example, women who are in this particular state, they don't have access to things like sanitary pads or underwear. These are the sort of things, the immediate things that we will be giving to people: soaps, toothbrush, combs. These types of things are immediate things that people need. Pots, pans, jugs, spoons, plates. Their whole life has been broken down.
Exactly.
Rebuild as much as possible with as little amount of money as possible, because we know that donors cannot afford so much. So we are trying to give them everything with such a small amount of limited budget. So, anyone who's watching, anyone who's listening, please come forward. Whether it's through my organization or any organization, it literally doesn't matter. I believe fully in allyship and partnership. If you can give money to us, if you can give money to a local South African organization that's raising money to send across to Bangladesh, good, whatever, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who. Just give right now, whatever you can, some small portion of your budget of Ramadan 2021. If you can afford to give up 50, 60, 100 pounds, please do so, because it will literally save lives right now.
Yes, and just finally, Brother Mabrur, all the information is on your website for people wanting to contribute through your organization.
Absolutely. You can find everything on our social media or on our website. Just type in @Restless Beings. We have a huge banner on there. We've got a donation page specifically for this. So you can donate as much as you want. And even if you can't donate, please share it on. We have information and videos as well on there, which is literally the videos that are being sent to media across the world. So you can find all of that stuff on our social medias as well.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khairan so much for that and for your time with us this morning, Brother Mabrur. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It was Mabrur Ahmed joining us this morning, and obviously the devastation that is caused by the fire. And really, this is something that we as a Muslim Ummah need to think about, and considering the fact that we are 2.5 weeks away from the month of Ramadan. And as we prepare for the month of Ramadan in more ways than one, let us just set aside some of our resources, perhaps a small percentage as well. And as Mabrur mentioned, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us the risk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us with so much favors at the end of the day. And yeah, we are talking about people at this point in time where an entire family has to live on a single tomato. Now that alone we need to think about, and just looking at the Muslim world in general as we head towards the month of Ramadan. And we hear it over and over again, where we hear even in some of the wealthier countries where people actually suffer from obesity during the month of Ramadan. And here we have people, thousands and thousands of people, millions of people right across the entire world in refugee camps, those that have been displaced internally, externally displaced. These are refugees. These are people who've got absolutely nothing. And when a disaster like this happens, when a fire like this happens, one can just imagine the magnitude of the problem. So this is something let us think about, and let us do whatever we can, inshallah, for the benefit of the ummah, for the benefit of humanity.